Alright everyone, welcome back to my monthly series where I rank every movie that I watched in the previous month for the first time. Alright, so basically what this is spoiler free thoughts on all these movies, just so you know, because you never know all the movies that are going to be on the list going into it, so I want you to be able to watch without any fear. So always be spoiler free. Usually a random mix of movies because it's just whatever movies I watched in the previous month. And this time around it's August 2025. And I watched 13 movies for the first time specifically. No rewatches count. So these are fresh experiences. So my takes are relatively fresh. At the most, they're a month old. And yeah, so as comes naturally with that, my takes might change over time. So I feel like even if I could look back at a couple months ago, I'd probably change around some of the rankings. At the end of the day, the ranking itself is not, it's not so much about the ranking. It's really an excuse to talk about a bunch of new movies I just watched because I've been loving movies. I've been watching more movies than ever before in my life, literally, no exaggeration. I've watched over 100 movies this year so far for first time watches, and that's by far the most I've ever watched in a year. I watched a little over 50 last year, and my goal was just to maintain that. I was like, I'm satisfied with that. I was aiming for 50 for the year, and I've already passed 100 with now 4 months left still to go through. So I'm loving it. I love watching new movies. I'm not picky. I'm down for anything, and I'm trying to keep up with new releases as well. So there's always going to be a flux of 2025 films in the mix, as well as random old ones that I haven't seen of all different kinds. Excuse me. My essentially a lot of the times it comes down to a watch list that I have on Letterboxd of a ton of movies. Sometimes I'll pick by random, sometimes I'll look through and curate. You never know. And this month we actually did a challenge on a Discord I'm part of. It's called the Film Buffs Challenge, where you're partnered up with someone. You make a list of movies you want to watch, and they assign you 5 movies to watch within a 1 month deadline, and an additional 6th movie of their choice from any of the streaming services that you have. So you have a month to do that. I actually finished them all within, I believe, 5 days of the challenge. I watched 6 movies, or at least 5 movies in 4 days. The 6 movies in a week, though. So they're all present in this list. I'll point them out as I go through. So we got a really nice mix of movies here. Some great films that I'm excited to highlight. And please, as always, I encourage you to sound off below your thoughts on any of these movies. Whether you think they're too high, too low. Let me know. Alright. Number 13, Wrongfully Accused. This is a 1998 film starring Leslie Nielsen, directed by Pat Proft, and it's fun. Now, I love Leslie Nielsen specifically from the Naked Gun movies. He was great in his little role in Airplane as well. So, like, his brand of the comedy they put him in it works for me for the most part. But there's some of these other ones that aren't as critically acclaimed that I still have to check out. Wrongfully Accused was one of them. But you know, there's some fun gags in there. I think essentially what I said in my Letterboxd review, which if you want more thoughts on any of these, you can always go check those out on my Letterboxd, Zach Archer. It's in the link in the description. Yeah, I said it's like they took the stupidity of the Naked Gun movies and said, let's dial that up by a magnitude of 100. Like, way more stupid. So much less effective, you know, comedically, of getting laughs out of me. At some points, you might actually be laughing at the movie's attempts and laughing at the movie more than you're laughing with it, which is, you know, so bad it's good kind of style. Some stuff is funny. There's a lot of movie spoofs mixed in here, and I appreciated a couple of them. Mission Impossible, Titanic mixed in there. Those are fun. But it's just so stupid. It's really not a good movie. That's why it's down here at the bottom. It's still a fun time to watch, but objectively, it's really not very good. In the way that The Naked Gun is, I've always said it's stupid comedy, but it's clever and it's actually a genuinely great film. This I don't think is that. It's just way more stupid, way more misses than in the Naked Gun movies, and yeah. But look, if you like Leslie Nielsen, I would check it out. Some of the stuff they shamelessly even borrowed from, the Naked Gun, Airplane, very much. Like, it didn't have as much of an effect for me because it was like right out of those movies. They just ripped the couple lines. So yeah, that's it for Wrongfully Accused. Number 12, The Legend of Ochi. All right, Legend of Ochi is I just didn't think it was anything special, if I'm being honest. The Ochi himself, very cute. I really like the design of him. I love a cute puppeted character. That's really cool to see. I love that vibe. But the story itself just left a lot to be desired. This was directed by Isaiah Saxon, and it starred, I don't know who Helena Zengel is. So she's a very young actress, obviously. I don't know if she's been in anything else yet. But there's Willem Dafoe randomly in here, which is cool to see him. And Finn Wolfhard is there. He's just there. He really does not add much to the movie. He's just kind of there ornamentally. But the movie itself, I appreciated what it was going for, but I just didn't really care for any of the actual side characters that we spent a lot of time on, or the a lot of the plot in general wasn't that compelling to me. I will say maybe part of the reason why it's not as effective to me is because the plot is actually very reminiscent of How to Train Your Dragon. It's a very, very similar plot. I'd be surprised if they didn't take inspiration from that. And it felt very derivative of that, and it wasn't nearly as effective as at getting that relationship between Yuri and Ochi and the Ochi, really hammering that home. So yeah, that's where it lacks for me. The whole thing with Maxim and the side plot didn't really do anything for me. That's the big thing. I just think it's pretty forgettable in my opinion, which is a shame. Number 11, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. All right, this is the 1989, the cult classic, directed by Stephen Herrick, starring Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter. I'm sure I'll get some grief for this one. It just didn't work for me. I personally felt like watching it for the first time in the year 2025. It really did not do it any justice for me. It just didn't work in the way I feel like it might have worked if I watched it then, or if I watched it when I was actually growing up. But I also do stand corrected in a way, because someone on the Discord commented that he had just watched it a couple years ago and loved it. So maybe it's just a me thing, and that's fine. Sometimes things just don't work for me that work for a lot of people. I guess the humor wasn't really that effective for me. I didn't find it that funny. This is one of the movies that was assigned for the Film Buffs Challenge on the Discord, and yeah, it's pretty weak for me. I'm sorry, just being honest. It's just I went into it wanting to enjoy it, but yeah. Number 10, The Crocodile Hunter: Collision Course. This is a movie I never knew existed, and I don't know if I'm a stranger to that, or if everybody else, if you've heard of this, let me know. This was also part of the Film Buff Challenge. This is the one that wasn't on my list. It was a random pick from my partner Dubs on there, and he had picked this that definitely is a perfect choice for something like that, because I never would have watched it otherwise. It's literally a plot. It's a fictional story with Steve Irwin as himself as the main character. So Steve Irwin has to hunt down this crocodile, and hilarity ensues. Is this movie objectively better than Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? No, probably not, but I did kind of enjoy it more. So I give it a nod here. Honestly, I don't even know if it's better than Wrongfully Accused. Probably, maybe, I don't know. You kind of have to squint to find that, but it's just so stupid. But it's kind of really funny, the tactic they kept having Steve Irwin in his classic style talking at the camera. You'll be in the thick of the plot, and he'll just look at the camera and just do his whole spiel about everything, and that was funny to me. The movie overall left a lot to be desired. The plot's not very strong, but it's not meant to be, and so for what it is, I'll take it. Number 9, Cinderella. Yeah, it's the classic Cinderella 1950 film. Hold on, who directed The Crocodile Hunter? John Stainton directed The Crocodile Hunter. The only films he's directed are The Crocodile Hunter and Ocean's Deadliest, which was was that the one that was the last Stephen Irwin documentary? Okay, but anyway, Cinderella, the 1950 classic, ultimately is just pretty good to me. It's so far as the classic Disney films. Obviously amazing and marvelous for the time. But I'm trying to watch it for the first time in this day and age. And in all fairness, I did watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs earlier this year in preparation for the remake. And I actually quite liked that movie. Found it really charming and like a visual feast for the eyes. And there's definitely elements of that in Cinderella. It wasn't as compelling to me. I was actually surprised at how much of it was focused on the animals and their little side plot that ensues, because it's already a pretty short movie, and the fact that it focuses so much on those, there's actually not that much time spent on the main plot. At least it felt like that. I felt similarly to Snow White. The romance element of this movie wasn't actually that much of a romance. There's not really any real chemistry there. It's just kind of like, he's literally Prince Charming in this. That's where the whole Prince Charming thing came from. But he's Prince Charming, you're meant to be with him, that kind of thing. But it's a fun little twist on it with the Cinderella story, which is, she's the girl that you don't expect to be with the Prince Charming, and she gets her chance. And it's cute in that way. I think the music is pretty understated, but I have to give props to this movie for producing an all-timer in A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes. I mean, that's just, wow, it's stood the test of time for sure. It's kind of wild to think about how old some of these movies are now. This is 75 years old. Wow. But again, I didn't rate it super high, but it's not a bad movie by any means. It's done some miraculous things, and it's incredibly impressive how much it stands up. Number 8, The Naked Gun 2025. I've referenced The Naked Gun earlier, and yeah, I loved Leslie Nielsen in the originals. The Naked Gun is one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite comedies for sure. And so I was very skeptical, very cautious going into this new remake. And look, it's at number 8, but these are all good movies. Like from here on up, they're definitely solid movies. So this one, I wasn't blown away by it, but it definitely impressed me that it was anything but the bare minimum. It actually took the energy of the originals and captured them well. I do think they were a little lazy in borrowing some exact jokes from the originals, but at the same time, I understand it's been over 30 years since the last Naked Gun film. So I understand they just want to, like, these are really good jokes, let's just reintroduce them to a new audience or something. But yeah, those were a couple of detractors for me. Liam Neeson I thought was pretty good. Definitely not as sharp as Leslie Nielsen in this role, but that's a big shoes to fill. Pamela Anderson was awesome. I thought she was great and probably the highlight of the film. A couple of fun supporting roles as well, but overall I'm just I'm satisfied with what we got. They didn't do the Naked Gun name a disservice, and I appreciate that. It's directed by Akiva Schaffer. I know Seth MacFarlane had a hand in it as well. I remembered hearing that all the way leading up to the film, and yeah, that was appreciated that they respected the humor of the original. There was very much a lot of jokes reminiscent, if not directly borrowed, from the Naked Gun movies, as well as some jokes very reminiscent of Airplane's comedy as well. So it's a solid comedy. Number 7, Stardust. This is a movie I had never heard about until I had it in a stack of random DVDs that I picked up for cheap somewhere at one point. And so I threw them on my list for the Film Buffs Challenge, and it was picked out. I never would have expected to be picked out. I didn't know anything about it. And it was solid. It was a fun little fantasy film. It was like, there was something cozy about it. I don't know. The vibe was pretty cool. It does some unique things. It's not often you get like a unique fantasy world like this. And yeah, there's a romance element to it, which is pretty cool, mixed with the fun vibes of the fantasy world. I liked it. Charlie Cox as the lead was unexpected. I had no idea he was in it, but he was great. There's some funny moments in here too. Who else we got in here? Claire Danes, Michelle Pfeiffer. They're solid. So I was just delightfully surprised. I think that this movie, was a movie I never would have seen. I don't feel like it gets talked about much because I hadn't heard of it. But the people on my letterbox who had seen it seemed to mostly think highly of it as well. So that's cool. Oh yeah, Robert De Niro's in this as well. He's fun. Number 6, Freakier Friday. Look, I know this is high. This is high for a movie like this. It's a legacy sequel and an old Disney movie being reborn years later. What is it? 2 decades later? But I genuinely was smiling the whole time I watched this in theaters. It was a complete joy to watch. And it's a high recommendation. Like, I hadn't watched Freaky Friday. I had tried, or I thought about rewatching it prior to, just never got the chance. And so it literally had been probably decades since I had seen it as well. So coming into this, it felt fresh but nostalgic at the same time. And I actually enjoyed some of the new characters. I just thought the whole energy they brought to it and the story was pretty sweet and just made for a really fun time and a lot of genuinely funny moments. I'm just telling you, like, at a certain point, I can't deny my feelings, one way or the other. Strong reactions to movies are something I certainly take to, and so if I go into a movie smiling the whole time and walk out like, man, that was a fun time, that's high marks for me. Shout out to Nisha Ganatra, who directed the film. I do want to say it was great to see Lindsay Lohan doing great and seemingly having a lot of fun filming this. I know she's been back for a while, but I think for the most part she's made some like pretty on the outside what seemed like pretty unremarkable, like Hallmark type movies. And so I haven't actually watched her in anything for years, so it was just nice to see her. And Jamie Lee Curtis is the absolute star of the show. I thought she carried so much of the movie, so I want to give her props as well. Number 5, Castle in the Sky. This is the first Studio Ghibli film, 1986, directed by Hayao Miyazaki. Absolutely. This was on my list for the film challenge. I have several Studio Ghibli films that I still need to get to. And so I had them all on my list for the challenge, and this was the one that was picked out. I think primarily just because it was the first. So I would like to get through more of the Studio Ghibli films. They just always have an amazing vibe to them. It's incomparable, and it's definitely not missing here. Just a couple really endearing characters. It's a sweet, fun little story, and it doesn't take much more than that. The vibes are just always immaculate in Studio Ghibli. The score was something that was absolutely amazing. I love the music in here. It was very much like a JRPG. I almost felt like Chrono Trigger vibes. I could have seen it straight out of there. very much felt like JRPG music, which I loved. The dynamic between the two main characters, Pazu and Shita, that was the highlight. And yeah, it's just a great time. Number 4, Kill Bill Volume 1. This is a fun time. I mean, I can't deny that it's just fun seeing a couple of badass ladies just fighting. They're just fighting fucking people up. I can't deny how much fun that is. Uma Thurman, Lucy Liu, Vivica A. Fox. I mean, just to name a couple. Great to see them. And it's just a fun revenge plot, really. That's all it is. And I haven't seen Volume 2 yet, I'll say that much. And I wanted to follow it up pretty quickly after, because I know that's kind of how it's viewed. I know Tarantino even sees it as their one movie and counted in his 10 movies, you know. So I definitely want to follow that up soon. Curious to see how things go there. But man, that scene, that final fight scene, just the backdrop is beautiful, and it's a fun, really fun fight. I think there's a lot of that's really most of what the fun is here. Some fun choreography, as well as great shot composition to accompany that. It just like, there's never a dull moment. You know, there's always something to sink your teeth into. And Tarantino, I really enjoy his films, and I still have plenty of them to watch too. So I want to knock them off as well. Number 3, it's Weapons, baby. Weapons, the 2025 film that might still be in theaters near you. I'm not sure at the time you see this. It's directed by Zach Kreger. Excellent work. I thought this was excellent. I think 2025 has been an amazing year for horror, and any horror and horror adjacent movies are, like, if I'm looking at my favorite movies that came out this year so far, I think all of them are in that genre. So what a great year for that genre. And man, this was great. This was great. It's not like Bring Her Back. There's some scarring stuff there. Like, that's actually almost traumatic. And once you watch it, you kind of need to take a minute, and it doesn't just leave you immediately like a lot of movies do. It takes a while to sink in. Weapons is not that. It is nowhere near as heavy. There's some gnarly parts to it, and some still disturbing stuff, but nothing as viscerally as Bring Her Back. And I just love the concept of Weapons. I thought it was a cool concept from the jump. When you kind of realize what it's about, it's like, that's compelling. That's compelling stuff. And I really love the directing. I love the directing, but I love the editing style of transitioning to different perspectives. I almost always love that in movies. I think it lends itself to really fun storytelling. It's a fun storytelling technique, and I thought it was employed brilliantly here. Like, this would be a great example I would point to on how to effectively do that. And yeah, definitely worth a watch if you enjoy horror movies at all. Absolutely. That mystery element is like that's the key there, because yeah, it's a horror movie, but there's that element that really keeps you engaged, and it's like, well, where's it going next? And like, along the lines with the horror movies, like, if you go back on like my monthly rankings, whenever there's one of those big horror movies, they're almost always at the top. You know, Final Destination Bloodlines, I loved that. Bring Her Back, I did really love that, despite the negative effects of it. Sinners, I love that. Like, seriously, all these movies are at the top of my list for the year, so it's cool. Number 2, It's a Wonderful Life. Yes, this is the 1946 film from Frank Capra. All right, this is, of course, I've heard the name so many times over the years, and in fact, I knew the quote every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. I knew that. That's the only thing I knew about this movie going into it, really. And wow, I was impressed. There's a stretch of it where it's pretty slow early on, maybe in the middle, but man, it's hard to even care about that by the time you get to the end and how everything wraps up. It's just such a beautiful story, and it was bringing a tear to my eye. Just it's such a beautiful message. It really is, and it's one I'll definitely take with me, and I'll be watching this more in the future as well. I think it's like there's some great films from this era. This is one of the few ones that's so talked about to this day, and it still remains a favorite to this day for people. And it's like such a cozy vibe to it. It's very heavy themes at play as well, but all in all, it's pretty cozy. I commented that Jimmy Stewart playing an 18-year-old when he was like what 37 or something crazy at the time, and then playing himself years later with no change in appearance whatsoever is so funny. It's a product of his time, truly. You'd never see something quite like that today. The closest thing you get is in the movie Here from last year with some of the de-aging stuff they did with Tom Hanks. That's the closest thing you get, but this is the raw, real deal. Just Jimmy Stewart in his grown-ass man's age, playing an 18-year-old in high school, and yeah, that's the funny part of it. But it really is a beautiful film. I loved it. Something not specifically about this movie, but a thought that I had after watching it is like there's something a little bit morbid about watching a movie that came out in 1946 in the year 2025, because every adult you see in every single shot, they're all dead. It's literally a graveyard, and all it takes is you go a few years back and then all the children as well. It's most of the children are dead at this point from this movie as well, but I do know there's a couple that are still alive. But it doesn't make it any less morbid that in all these shots, all these different adults, all these the main cast of actors, all no longer with us. There's something morbid about that, which like I'll think about even in like some 80s films, some 90s films where you have some elderly actors in there. I think about that there because I think, dang, I really liked them in here, and they're no longer with us for sure. But this one, like even more so when you go back, we're getting close to almost, at a couple decades, we're at 100 years after this movie came out. So it's pretty. It's just a thought I had, nothing to do with the movie, but I wonder if you ever think about something like that. It's like a digital graveyard kind of. And number one, my favorite of the month, it's Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Now, this was a movie. It's a Wonderful Life was part of the challenge. This one was not. This one I just randomly opted to watch after the fact. Not randomly opted to. It was literally randomly selected from my watch list. So this is, again, sometimes the luck of the draw. I strike gold. Ferris Bueller, obviously, it's a very well-known film. I know a lot of people love it. And the fact that I haven't seen it, pretty big deal. But there's still a lot of big movies I haven't seen, It happens. But I'm so glad I got to see it now. John Hughes did his thing with this. I loved it. I really did. It's another one of those movies where, like Freakier Friday, I was probably beaming the whole time watching it. I thought it was so much charm and really a creative directorial style. And I love Ferris always addressing the camera, breaking the fourth wall all the time. That's always fun. And they do it in clever ways. But there's so many just fun shot compositions that you can't help but notice here. They make it very apparent, but they just do so much fun in here. The parade scene is just so fun for no reason, and it's like, yeah, this is fun. There's a really, really cozy vibe to this movie. As someone who didn't grow up in the 80s, it has a very 80s vibe that I really love. and also like a nostalgia for the 80s vibe that it's hard to explain as someone who didn't grow up there, that I still felt that pretty strongly. You know, it's just like the time period left its fingerprints all over this movie, and I think it's really great. Matthew Broderick is great for the lead role, and Alan Ruck as the second in command, not bad either. But Ferris is just such a character. Obviously, the movie doesn't work without him. But at the end of the day, the story isn't that crazy. You know, that's the thing with movies. Sometimes you give super complex plots with really clever twists and turns, and that can make for a masterpiece of a movie. But you can just as equally have a masterpiece from fun vibes, innovative directing, and just a fun story about some friends skipping a day from school. Can't beat it. And I'm serious, like when I first watched this movie, which I watched this pretty recently, even now, looking back on it, I watched it 4 days or 3 days prior to recording this, and in that short time, my opinion has only gone way up on this movie. Like, at first I was like, man, that was great, maybe like an 8 out of 10, but I've already grown to like a 9.5 out of 10. Like, I love this movie, and I think it's might be an all-timer for me, like one of my favorite movies and one I'll go back to. And like, it's not often for me, as much as I love movies, to have a movie that I just unabashedly love wholeheartedly and don't have like at least some problems that knock it down a peg or two for me. But it's like, I could give this 5 stars on Letterboxd and I would have no issues, like no issues with that whatsoever and arguing that. But for now, it's at 4.5 stars, but just absolutely amazing. I loved it. There you go. There's August 2025. All the movies I watched for the first time in that month, ranked. All right, some awesome films in there. I love movies, and I love this art form. I'm actually like, the more I get into movies, the more I'm like, man, I wish I got into this sooner. I've been watching movies all my life, but really only the last few years have I started more seriously getting into them on a regular basis. And then this last year, especially, I've gone into another gear to where I'm actively seeking out movies, making sure I'm watching movies regularly, and have a list of a ton of movies I want to get to from all decades, and also trying to keep up with the new releases. So I've just been having a blast with it, and yeah, I love film. There it is. Sound off below. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this, and until next time, take care.